Let me make one thing clear. I didn't sign up for this because I wanted to save people. I joined because I thought it would give me answers about the thing I saw when I was 13. About why my dad vanished into a field full of screaming birds. About why, every year on my birthday, something knocks twice on my bedroom wall at exactly 3:26 a.m. I was wrong. This job doesn't give you answers. It gives you rules, and you either follow them or you disappear. The orientation was underground, literally 2 miles below a fake power station somewhere in Utah. I was one of 12 recruits. Most of them were ex-military. A few were scientists. One looked like he'd been pulled straight from a psychiatric ward. They handed us a folder. No welcome speech. No video presentation. Just a thick, black binder with a laminated cover. Across the front in all caps. Field operations. Protocol. Classified entities. Survival directives. I flipped to the first page. There were rules. Dozens of them. Categorized by threat level, region, behavior type. But one was written in red ink across the top. The rules are not suggestions. Disobedience is fatal or worse. I'll never forget the first mission. They called it a level 3 repeater loop. Sounded technical. Turned out to mean people were going missing in a 6-mile stretch of woods. And time kept resetting every 47 minutes. I was paired with a veteran named Esco. Didn't say much. He handed me a black duffel bag full of gear I didn't recognize. A compass with no north, a vial of milky liquid, a gun loaded with white-tipped rounds, and a sealed envelope marked, "To be opened only if you hear laughter." I made the mistake of asking what was laughing. Esco didn't even look up when he answered. Hopefully, nothing. We drove out at 2:00 m. Our SUV stopped working just before the forest line. Completely shut off. Esco handed me a flashlight with no battery compartment. It still glowed when I touched it. "Don't let it flicker more than twice," he said. "If it goes out, drop it and run." We entered the woods. The first thing I noticed was the quiet. Not just no birds, but no bugs. No wind, no footsteps but ours. Then the trees. They were wrong. Some were upside down, roots in the air, leaves buried in the soil. Others twisted like they were growing away from something invisible. I checked my compass. It spun in slow circles. Esco whispered, "Here we go." The air vibrated, like a tuning fork struck deep inside the earth. Then it hit me. The loop. Suddenly we were standing at the start of the trail again. Same patch of mud on my boot. Same broken branch to my left. Same exact breath still in my lungs. We walked again. Same thing happened on the 4th loop. I heard it. Laughter. Far off at first. Then closer. A child's voice. Giggles. Drifting through the trees. It sounded like my little brother. The one who drowned when I was 10. My hand shook as I reached for the envelope in my pocket. I opened it. It was a photo. Of me, taken in this exact forest. But I was alone. Mouth open, screaming. Behind me, something blurry and huge. With too many arms and a face that was just trying to look like my mom. At the bottom of the photo, in handwriting that matched none of ours. "If it knows your name, run." I turned to Esco. He was already gone. No sound, no sign, just gone. And then I heard it again. The laughter. This time, right behind me. And it said my name. Not just my first name, my middle name. The one no one alive should know. I ran. I didn't look back. Didn't stop. The flashlight flickered once, twice, a third. I threw it, just like Esco said. The woods screamed when I did, like the trees themselves were howling, and everything went black. When I woke up, I was on the floor of HQ's med bay. 6 hours had passed. Esco never came back. They logged it as a successful loop break. Said I'd done better than most. They handed me a new folder. This one thinner. Just one rule on the inside. Don't follow the voices. They lie in familiar tongues. That was the night I stopped wondering what happened to my dad. Because something out there knew my full name. And now, it knows I'm coming. They didn't give me time to breathe after the loop mission. Less than 12 hours later, I was back in dispatch. Another envelope. This one was pale yellow, sealed in wax that smelled faintly of ammonia. They didn't tell me where I was going, just handed me a single card with the word dormant stamped across the top. And beneath it, the target location, St. Elora Psychiatric Hospital. I'd heard of St. Elora in passing. The name was whispered in the mess hall, mentioned in the same breath as Coven Protocol and White Noise Containment. It had been decommissioned in the 80s officially. Unofficially, it was where Category 4 entities were housed before HQ figured out how to kill or trap them. They never really figured it out. I guess just locked the doors and left. The hospital sat in the middle of nowhere. Thick pine forest, barbed wire fence, a road that wasn't on any GPS. The sky was gray when I arrived, even though it was barely 10:00 M. You know that heavy kind of gray that makes your skin itch? The kind of gray that feels like it's pressing down on your skull? That kind. I wasn't going in alone this time. There were two others on the team. Mendez Tech Support, with a hacked thermal scanner and a prosthetic eye that flicked side to side even when he wasn't looking around. Arlo Quiet, surgical, probably ex-wet work. He never said more than a sentence, unless it was mission critical. And then there was me, still green, still sore from sprinting out of a time loop with something laughing behind me. We parked. HQ gave us exactly one directive before we stepped inside. Don't give them your real name, no matter what. No elaboration, just that. And then they handed me a list of fake names to choose from. I picked Sam Riley. It sounded boring enough to be forgettable. I should have picked anything else. Inside was colder than it should have been. Even with the lights dead and windows sealed, the air had this refrigerated stillness. Mendez was scanning the hallway with that eye of his, muttering to himself, "There's something giving off 98. 6 dig from room 313. Barlow nodded and moved like a damn ghost down the corridor. I followed. My hands trembled on the stock of my tranq rifle. Not from cold, from knowing the layout was all wrong. I counted 10 doors before we reached room 313. That shouldn't have been possible. The entire hall was 30 feet long, and yet 10 doors. Each one numbered, each one breathing. You read that right. The doors were breathing. Slow, deliberate inhales, paint rippling with every exhale. No one else mentioned it, so neither did I. Room 313 was wide open. Inside, a woman sat on a rusted bed frame. Hospital gown, blank stare, hair matted to her skull. She looked normal, too normal. That's the danger. The more normal they look, the more wrong they are. She smiled when we stepped inside. New doctors, she said. They told me someone would come. Mendez was already scanning. Arlo stayed in the doorway. I approached. She tilted her head and asked, "What's your name?" And that's when the walls shuddered. Like her words woke something up. I remembered the rule. If they ask your name, give a fake one. Sam. I said quickly, "Sam Riley." She stared at me for a long time. Her eyes turned glassy, and then they rolled back in her head. She started speaking in another voice, a man's voice, deeper than it should have been, rough, like it came from the bottom of a dried-up well. Sam Riley, third child of Elizabeth and Mark, born September 8th, 1991. I froze. because that wasn't the name I gave. That was me, real me. Mendez backed up. Arlo raised his rifle, but it was too late. The walls bled. From every seam, thick gray fluid oozed out like sweat. The doors started moaning. She stood up, still speaking in that voice. Your name was given the moment you stepped inside. You wore it like a lanyard. I looked down. There was a hospital bracelet around my wrist. I hadn't put it on. It read, Logan Thatcher. Arlo fired. A round of silver-tipped tranquilizers straight into her chest. She didn't even blink. She caught the second dart mid-air and ate it. Bit it in half like a snack. Blood ran down her chin. And then she laughed in my voice. We ran. The hallway behind us changed every 3 seconds. 1 second it was tile, then carpet, then grass. A staircase that spiraled up and down at the same time. The hospital was reshaping itself, trying to trap us, or maybe trying to match us. Like it was learning. Mendez opened a side door, and we flooded into what used to be a therapy room. Inside, there was a mirror. Big, silver-backed, intact, and written across it, in backwards blood, only one name leaves. I ripped off the bracelet, burned it with the emergency flare in my belt. Arlo threw me a new one. This one read, Sam Riley. The instant it touched my wrist, the walls went silent. Everything just froze. No more bleeding, no more voices, no more shifting. We walked out the front door without saying a word. No alarms, no sirens. Just cold sun hitting our faces as we passed through the outer gate. Back at HQ, Mendez said one thing before splitting. Names are power. Here, they're currency. I've burned everything with my real name on it. Driver's license, birth certificate, even my damn tattoos. And from now on, if something asks who I am, I'll lie. Every time. Because I don't care if it looks like my mom, my brother, or a version of me crying for help in the dark. If it knows my name, it's already inside. I thought I was getting used to it. The breathing walls, the fake people, the feeling of time bending just slightly wrong. But nothing prepares you for Station 7. HQ called it a sleepless perimeter breach. That's fancy talk for a village where no one sleeps anymore, and something watches from behind closed eyelids. They sent me in alone this time. Said it was low movement. Said I'd only be observing. Said if I followed the rules, I'd be fine. They always say that the village isn't on any map. You get there by driving northeast from Pine Hollow until the trees thin out, and your radio starts playing music that hasn't existed since 1939. Then you keep driving for another 6 minutes. No more, no less. I missed the timing once and looped back through the same field of dead deer for an hour. Second time, I hit it right. Pulled into a cul-de-sac of rotting cabins and hollow-eyed people who stared at me like I was already a ghost. I was given a room in the clinic. It used to be a post office. Now it had cots and IV bags of black fluid no one would explain. A nurse named Ellis gave me the new rulebook. This one was thinner, only 6 entries. The top one was circled in red. Rule 19. Don't yawn where it can see you. I asked what it was. Ellis didn't answer. She just reached up, unhooked a curtain, and draped it over the mirror behind me. That night, I watched the villagers. None of them blinked. None of them slouched. None of them showed even a flicker of tiredness, though their skin sagged like melted wax, and their eyes were rimmed in red. Around midnight, I caught one of them, an old man named Milo, slipped behind the diner and tried to take a nap. The moment he closed his eyes, something pulled him into the dirt, fast, like he was made of wet paper, and gravity changed its mind. Gone in 2 seconds. Just a long trail of claw marks and a puddle of drool where his face had been. I ran over, dug with my hands. Nothing but packed earth and silence. No blood, no Milo. Just a faint hum in the trees, like someone breathing through a paper bag. Back at the clinic, I confronted Ellis. She stared at me, wide-eyed and trembling. It likes the slack faces. She whispered, "When your guard's down, when your jaw opens and your brain drifts, that's the opening." I asked how long it had been here. She laughed, bitter, dead. Longer than the town, longer than the trees. Then she handed me another card, a backup rule, written by hand. If you see a second moon in the sky, cover your mouth and hum. Never stop humming until it's gone. That night, I locked myself in the clinic. No windows, no mirrors, no chance of yawning where something might be watching. But around 3:20 a.m., I heard tapping on the wall, soft, rhythmic. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps, pause. I got up, followed the sound. It led to the mirror behind the curtain. I pulled it back and saw myself, but not me. This version looked well rested, too rested, smiling, bright eyes. A version of me that slept. He yawned, long and slow. And as he did, something slid out of the back of his throat. Long fingers, wet eyes, no mouth. It clung to the edges of his teeth, then pushed itself out, right into the reflection. Not into the room, just the reflection. But it turned, looked directly at me, then whispered, "It's so much easier when you're tired." I dropped the curtain and bolted the door, sat in the corner until the sun rose. At 6:43, a loudspeaker in the village crackled. Daylight achieved, breathing cycle resets. You may blink now. And everyone blinked at the same time. Hundreds of eyelids slamming shut for a single synchronized moment. Like they were part of one body, one mind. I got the hell out by 7. Didn't check in, didn't log results, didn't care. I'm still humming sometimes, especially when I'm tired, even if it annoys people. Because ever since I left that place, every once in a while, I look up at the sky and see a second moon, just sitting there, watching, waiting for me to yawn. They didn't send coordinates this time, just a photo, old, faded, black and white, depicted a stone chapel surrounded by leafless trees. No roads, no power lines, no people. On the back, written in ink so faded it looked like blood diluted in water. You'll find it when it wants to be found. I brought it to dispatch, asked for clarification. They just stared at me like I was asking how to spell air. Just drive, they said, and don't look at the altar. The trip started normally enough. 2-lane highways, pine forests, radio static. But around hour 5, things shifted. The trees started growing backward branches underground, roots in the sky. The sky itself flickered. Once, I swear I saw an eclipse that wasn't there a second earlier. The road narrowed, curled, became gravel, then dirt, then something else. I saw it around dusk, nestled between twisted birch trees and grave markers that had no names. The chapel. It looked wrong. Not aged. Wrong. Like it had never been built. Only remembered. Stone that bent around shadows instead of casting them. Windows made of something like bone glass. And the door, wide open. I parked, grabbed my kit, checked the rule sheet again. This time, it was short. Just one line in blocky handwriting. Rule 31. Whatever you do, don't look at the altar. Underneath that, scribbled hastily, if you hear something praying in reverse, cover your ears with salt. If your reflection starts mouthing words, destroy the mirror. If you see someone who looks like you at the pulpit, run. I stepped inside. Dust didn't hang in the air. It hovered like it was alive. The pews were made from ribs, not wood, just bone, polished and curved, silent. And at the front of the room, past the crooked aisle, past the flickering torches, stood the altar. I didn't look, not directly, but I could feel it. The way you can feel a spider on the back of your neck before it moves. The altar wasn't placed there. It was rooted. I made it halfway down the aisle before the whispering started. Soft at first, then wet, then angry. Not in any language I know. Backwards, glitched, like an old cassette being chewed up by a dying machine. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the salt satchel. Poured some into each ear. It burned. Good. That meant it was working. The whispers turned to chanting. Voices overlapping. One said my name, my real name. One sounded like my mom. One like Esco. One like a dog I had when I was 6. All dead, all gone. All in this choir of rot. Then I saw something move in the mirror above the confessional booth. I froze. I wasn't standing still in the reflection. I was moving toward the altar, smiling, mouth moving, lips forming words I didn't know. I knew. I turned away from it, grabbed my flask of silvered whiskey, smashed it into the glass. The mirror screamed, not shattered, screamed, like it was alive. The air thickened, the chapel groaned, and I swear to God the altar blinked. I didn't look at it. I didn't, but something inside me said it blinked, like an eye behind your ribcage opened, just to see what you'd do. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. Slow, wet, bare feet on stone. I didn't turn, didn't speak, because I remembered the last line of the rules, scratched into the envelope flap. If it asks if you're ready to preach, say, I never learned how. Oh, the thing stopped, right behind me. Breath like spoiled milk brushed the back of my neck. Then it spoke, in my voice. You ready to lead the sermon? Logan. My mouth went dry. Every cell in my body screamed at me to bolt, to run, to pray. But I said it. I never learned how. The thing shuddered once, then hissed and vanished. I turned and walked, didn't run straight back to the door. Never looked back. Not at the altar, not at the pews, not at the mirror shards whispering in the corner. When I stepped outside, the chapel was gone. Just mist, just dirt, just the echo of reverse chanting ringing in my salt-stuffed ears. Back at HQ, they asked if I'd seen the altar. I told them no. They stared for a long time. Then someone nodded. Good. Because if you had, we wouldn't be talking right now. I asked what was on it. They didn't answer, just handed me a new envelope. And this time, it was warm, like whatever came next was already alive. Her name is Mallory. At least, that's what they call her. She went missing in 1974 during a church picnic outside Davenport, Iowa. Disappeared in broad daylight. Witnesses say she walked behind a tree and never came back out. Search teams combed the area for weeks. Nothing until 1981. 7 years later, she was found standing in the exact same spot, wearing the same yellow dress, same sandals, same peanut butter stain on her collar. Still 5 years old, still alive, and still waiting for someone to finish counting. She's been recovered a total of 9 times now. Different locations, always alone, always confused, never older than 5. Each time, she starts a game of hide and seek. Each time, if she reaches 10, someone dies, usually horribly. Sometimes multiple someones. HQ doesn't contain her. They track her. She disappears, then reappears, like a cosmic glitch in the system. I didn't know any of this until they dropped her file on my desk. Track her. Engage only if she initiates play. If she starts counting, do not let her finish. Rule 44. That was the entire briefing. Just one damn rule. Never let her count to 10. She appeared in Idaho this time. A cornfield just outside a long-abandoned gas station. No road leading in, only the kind of rusted silence that tells you something's waiting. I parked just as the sun began to drop behind the stalks. The air smelled too sweet, like candy left out too long. She stood near the edge of the field. Yellow dress, dirty knees, hair in pigtails. She looked up as I approached, smiled, and that's when I knew it wasn't just a kid. The eyes are always the giveaway. Too old, too knowing, too still. "Do you want to play with me?" she asked, voice high and bright, like a commercial. But something twitched beneath her skin when she spoke. A little shimmer, like reality couldn't quite hold her together. I nodded slowly. "Hide and seek." She grinned wider. "You count, I'll hide." She spun on her heel and ran into the field. My hands shook. I wasn't sure what would happen if I refused to count. But HQ made it clear. Interrupt the count. Distract. Delay. Break the rhythm. She couldn't reach 10. I closed my eyes. 1, 2, 3. The corn whispered around me. The air grew thicker. The sun dimmed far too fast. 4, 5. I heard something to my left. A giggle. 6. A rustle behind me. 7. Another voice joined mine. A low, mirrored echo, saying the numbers with me. That's when I opened my eyes and realized I wasn't counting out loud. The girl's voice carried from inside the corn. 8. I ran. Didn't know where, just away from the sound. The stalks parted like they wanted to help me, like they feared her too. But the voices followed, all of them counting now. Male, female, young, old. 9. I tripped, fell into a small clearing. In the center, a scarecrow, but not made of straw. Bones, wrapped in the yellow dress. Its face was sewn shut with barbed wire, and yet its jaw moved. 10. Silence. The kind that bends your skull inward. The kind that knows you heard it. The clearing went dark. Sun snuffed like a candle. And then something grabbed my ankle. I kicked, twisted, fired my flare gun blindly into the stalks. The heat ignited the field. Everything lit up orange, red, then blinding white. When I opened my eyes, I was back at the gas station, still on my knees, still panting. My left boot was gone. My foot burned, blackened. But I was alive. Mallory sat on the hood of my car, swinging her feet. "You broke the rules," she said softly. "I didn't mean to." "It's okay," she whispered. "I'll give you one more chance." She leaned in close. Her breath smelled like birthday cake and dirt. "Next time, I'll let you hide." She vanished. Not ran, not blinked. Just gone, like a tape fast-forwarded past her frame. I sat there until dawn, feet blistered, shirt soaked, ears ringing with the echo of 10. HQ didn't punish me, didn't even debrief me. They just added a note to her file. Partial count breach. Subject allowed final number. Field agent survived. Unusual. Unusual. That's what I am now. I guess I can't sleep without hearing her voice. Counting. Waiting. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I smell birthday cake. The message came in around 2. Desechia. I was halfway through a lukewarm burrito, half asleep in my assigned bunker, 2 levels below HQ. My comm device bare bones, black, designed to work in electromagnetic hell, chirped once. Then a voice, my voice. "This is Agent Logan Thatcher. I need immediate evac from Grid 27F. Coordinates encoded. Do not engage target." I repeat, do not engage. It knows we're listening. There was a pause. Then something in the background static mixed with heavy breathing, and one final whisper. I'm not me anymore. I stared at the screen for a long time. At first, I thought it was a prank, a field training exercise. But the timestamp was wrong. 3 days from now. The device said the transmission was from June 6th. Tonight was June 3rd, which meant either the system glitched, or I was about to scream for help from a place I hadn't even been to yet. HQ confirmed the coordinates existed. Remote woodland, South Montana. Abandoned ranger station long since erased from federal maps. I asked who the call was routed to. They said I was the only one on rotation, which made sense. I'd already answered it before I left. Dispatch handed me a new rule card. This one was old, creased, smelled like firewood and old blood. Only 2 lines. Rule 07. Never answer a distress call from yourself. If you hear your voice in a place you haven't been yet, leave immediately. Too late for that. I guess I reached the site just after sundown. Thick pines, sky like ash, air tight enough to choke on. The station sat crooked on a hill, windows blacked out, front porch covered in moss like it was trying to disappear. I left the vehicle running. Every horror instinct in me screamed to stay mobile. The door creaked open before I even touched it. Inside, rot, paperwork, a radio buzzing faintly with a low hum like someone speaking backwards underwater. I stepped into the main hallway. My boots echoed too loud. And then I saw it. The note on the wall, written in red ink. My handwriting. You have 6 hours. After that, it'll be you talking, but not you thinking. My chest tightened. The note was pinned over a cracked mirror. In it, I could see myself, but my reflection blinked out of sync. I stepped back. The reflection smiled. I left the mirror behind and checked the rest of the building. No signs of life, but I found a second note, taped to the bathroom door. Don't talk to it, even if it cries. Underneath was a smear of something black, not blood, ink, maybe, but it moved, shifted, like it was alive. I turned to leave and caught a flicker of movement outside the window. A figure, not moving, just standing, facing the cabin. I blinked, gone. Then the radio crackled again, and my voice came through. You should have listened. Grabbed my pack, bolted out the back exit. Only the back exit was gone, replaced by a blank wall that hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. I tried the front door. Same thing, sealed shut, windows black. And then the lights began to flicker. From the far end of the hall, I heard footsteps. Boots. My boots. Same rhythm, same weight. Something was coming. Something that sounded exactly like me. I ran for the attic ladder, pulled myself up. Inside, small cot, scattered notes, and a single journal, my own field log. I flipped it open. The last entry read, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it out. It mimics you. Thought. Speech. Memory. It watches from mirrors and waits for you to think about yourself. The more you reflect, the more it copies. Stop thinking about who you are. Start thinking about where it isn't. That's the only way to stay ahead. Whatever you do, don't believe it when it begs. Below, the trapdoor creaked open. I held my breath. Didn't move. Then, Logan, my voice whispered. Please, it's me. You left me behind. I'm trapped. I'm scared. The voice cracked, choked, started crying, and I nearly answered. God help me, I almost did. But just before I spoke, I remembered Rule 07. Never answer a distress call from yourself. So I stayed silent, watched the trap door, and that's when I saw the hand. Same fingers, same scars, same everything. Only difference, There were too many joints. I waited until the voice stopped. Waited until sunrise. The door vanished around 6:02, yeah. Just peeled open like the walls remembered how to be a building again. I ran, didn't look back, didn't turn off the radio. Didn't care that my name was still being called from inside the mirror as I passed it. Back at HQ, they asked what I learned. I said nothing. But that wasn't true, because I now know this. Something out there wears us like skin, and it doesn't need your body to replace you. It just needs you to believe the voice is really yours. I didn't even get a debrief after the last mission. They just scanned my vitals, took my journal, and handed me a new envelope. This one was pale gray, stamped with a red hourglass on the seal. It pulsed warm like it had a heartbeat. The coordinates led to a former military installation in Nevada, long since abandoned. Except, apparently, it wasn't. Because as of last week, every sensor in a 10-mile radius was picking up the exact same time on every synced device. Alvenis, 11. And it had stayed there for 6 days. When I arrived, the sun was high, but the air was cold, dead quiet. Not the peaceful kind, more like the forest had its breath held. I stepped out of the transport and immediately felt wrong. Like my skin didn't fit quite right. That feeling you get when someone's staring at you from behind glass. HQ left another rule card taped to the entrance gate. Faded black paper, almost wet to the touch. Just one entry, Rule 58. If your shadow moves before you do, leave something behind and walk backward out. Do not look back. Do not retrieve what you left. If you forget this step, you will become the shadow. There was also a handwritten note, be careful around mirrors, and puddles. Inside the facility, everything was frozen in time. A coffee mug still steaming, a game of solitaire halfway played, a wall clock glass shattered, stuck at 11. 11's. 0 now. Every hallway buzzed faintly. Electric hum, but no source. I moved slowly. Didn't speak, didn't think. Watched every reflective surface like it might bite. I passed what used to be a break room. TV flickered black and white static. Despite being unplugged, there were handprints on the ceiling. Too many fingers. And in the far corner, a puddle, dark. Still, I caught a glimpse of my reflection and froze. My shadow in the puddle blinked. I hadn't blinked yet. I backed up, fast. Didn't run, didn't turn. Just backed out of the room and slammed the door. That's when I felt something slip from my bag. A photo. My sister and me as kids. I started to reach for it, then stopped. Rule 58. Leave something behind. I stood there shaking for a second, then turned around, backwards, one slow step at a time. The puddle gurgled behind me. I made it halfway down the hallway before I heard the voice. Low, slurred, familiar. Hey, Logan. I stopped. I wasn't supposed to, but the voice sounded like my sister. The one from the photo. She's alive, lives in Oregon. No connection to this mission, and yet her voice came from that puddle like it knew how to hurt me. You left me behind again, just like last time. I nearly turned. My heel twitched. But then I remembered the rule. Do not look back. So I didn't. I made it to the main lab. More clocks, all frozen at 11. Alwen. Except one, digital. In the far corner, it blinked. 11th, twice, and beneath it, scrawled in blood. Who changed the time? The moment I read that, every light in the building snapped off. Total darkness, then footsteps, but not coming toward me, coming from inside me. I know how that sounds, but I felt it. Something stepping out of me. Long limbs, claws like piano wires, and a face that looked like mine. Except it had no eyes, just holes. I bolted. No plan, just pure panic. I turned a corner, bad move, and nearly collided with a wall of mirrors. Some shattered, some intact. All of them showed me, only not me. Each reflection slightly off. One had too many teeth. One was bleeding from the ears. One was smiling. I wasn't. And one reached out of the mirror slow, deliberate, and tapped the glass. My nose started bleeding. I threw my flashlight at the nearest pane. Glass exploded outward, not inward. Something shrieked, high-pitched, like metal being twisted underwater. I took off down the hall, heart thundering like a drum line. When I got back to the exit gate, the rule card was gone. In its place, a black envelope taped to the fence. Inside was my sister's photo, burned at the edges, and on the back, written in the same handwriting as before. You passed, but you left something behind. It's not yours anymore. Back at HQ, I asked who'd been in the facility before me. No one answered, just handed me a mirror, told me to look. I hesitated, but I did it. My reflection blinked in time. No delay, no twitch. But behind my eyes, something watched back, smiling. Ever since then, my shadow moves half a second too fast. You wouldn't notice it unless you were really looking, but I see it. And one day, I think it's going to turn around. The town wasn't on any map. It only shows up once every 13 years, for exactly 48 hours. That's how long the last recon team lasted, 47 and a half. They didn't leave much behind. Just one partially restored audio log and half a jawbone. The town's name was Elderbrook, and the voice on the tape before the screaming kept repeating, "They're smiling too much. They smile when they speak." I got the assignment late. No briefing this time. Just the address scratched onto the side of a box of canned peaches, and a single note, Rule 16. If they offer you food, say grace. Even if you don't believe. Especially if you don't believe. That last line was underlined. Twice, I drove in just before sunset. The sky was bruised red. The air smelled like wood smoke and syrup. And Elderbrook, it was picture perfect. Victorian homes, white picket fences, a general store with a rocking chair out front, and people, smiling people, men in suspenders, women in aprons, children with pigtails and slicked hair, all of them standing still, all facing me. As soon as I stepped onto Main Street, they moved. At the same time, not random, not natural, synchronized. Every left foot forward, every head tilted at the same angle, like puppets all yanked by the same string. "Welcome to Elderbrook," they said in unison. "You're just in time for supper." Their voices were layered, like 30 mouths, one mind. I nodded slowly. I don't eat with strangers. The oldest one man with a pipe and clouded eyes smiled wider. "Then let us get to know each other." They led me to the church at the end of the street. Everything felt hollow, not aged, just fake, like a movie set no one remembered filming. Inside, long table, candlelit, plates already set, chairs perfectly aligned. Each dish was filled with exactly the same food: mashed potatoes, brown gravy, a red slice of something that bled when forked, and tall glasses of milk. Perfectly still, I stood behind the chair at the head of the table. They all stared at me, not blinking, not breathing, just waiting. I remembered the note. Say grace, even if you don't believe. I never did, honestly. Not since my brother died in 2009. Not since I joined the organization and learned there are things older than scripture. But I bowed my head anyway, closed my eyes, and said it. "Bless this food and the hands that prepared it. May it bring peace to those who partake, and rest to those who are gone." When I opened my eyes, They were all seated. No one had moved. Yet every single one of them now sat in perfect silence, forks raised, unmoving. Then, "Amen," they said in chorus. And I didn't. I watched, because the food, it twitched. The meat curled slightly, the mashed potatoes pulsed, and the milk, something blinked beneath the surface. The woman beside me, gray curls, blood on her bib, leaned close. "You forgot to eat, sugar." Her breath was ice and honey. I smiled politely. "I'm allergic." She blinked once, then turned back to her plate. No one forced me. They all kept glancing, subtly, like they were waiting for me to take a bite. Halfway through the meal, baby began to cry. I turned to look and froze. There was no baby, just a bundle of cloth in the corner, rocking, sobbing, then laughing. The townsfolk ignored it, but I couldn't, because it started saying my name, in my voice, over and over again. "Logan, Logan, Logan." I stood slowly. "I need to use the restroom." The table fell silent. Then, as one, they stood and pointed to the cellar door behind the pulpit. The handle was wet. The stairs descended into blackness that sucked in light. I went down 5 steps. That was all it took. Then the voices started again. "Too many," he said, "Grace. He still doubts. He must taste." The final stare landed in knee-deep water. Floating in it, photos. Thousands. Black and white snapshots of people sitting at this same dinner table. All of them mid-bite. All of them looking scared. One of them was me. From earlier tonight. From a moment that hadn't happened yet. I ran back upstairs. Burst through the church doors. Elderbrook was gone. No buildings. No people. Just a dirt road and flickering candles in the grass. In my hand, one of the milk glasses. Still full, still blinking. I tossed it, burned my gloves, sat in the middle of the field until dawn broke over the hills. And then, it was all back, like nothing happened. Only now, all the windows were boarded shut from the inside. Back at HQ, I submitted the report. They asked what I said during grace. I repeated it. One of the higher-ups paled. "That's not in any religious canon we know." Then he asked where I heard it. I told him I made it up. He shook his head. "No, you didn't. I've started hearing it in my sleep. That exact prayer. Voices layered over mine, saying it again and again. And sometimes, when I pass a mirror, I'm not just mouthing the words. I'm chewing. There's a place in the Atlantic Ocean known to HQ as Sector Blue 13. Official records list it as Barren Sea. No structures, no signals, nothing. But we know better, because at exactly 3:23 a.m., every night, a distress call pings out from the ocean floor. Always the same coordinates, always the same voice, and always the same message. We're still alive down here. We're not human anymore, but we remember how to scream. They briefed me just before the drop, showed me grainy sonar images of a rusted underwater facility, half buried in sediment. Nameplate read, Godeep Lab 12, sunk in 2013. Total system failure. All hands presumed dead. Except something kept the signal going. Something kept answering. And now it was my job to knock on the pressure hull and see what knocked back. Before I suited up, they gave me a new rule card. Dark blue, water-stained, written in shaky black ink. Rule 72. Don't follow the sound of your heartbeat. It's not yours anymore. I asked what that meant. They didn't answer. Just strapped me into the descent capsule and sealed the hatch. The trip down took 22 minutes. Darkness like nothing I'd ever seen. Not even black, just absence. The deeper I went, the more I felt. Untethered, like parts of me were floating outside my skin. Then the signal kicked in. Headset buzzed once, and a voice whispered, "Thump." Then again, louder, thump. By the time I reached the station, it was like someone was knocking on my chest. A low, rhythmic thud-thud that didn't match my pulse. At first I thought it was the pressure, but when I checked the monitor, my heart rate read 0. Deep 12 looked like a coffin rusted shut. The main hatch had been sealed from the inside, but something had pried it open, metal twisted outward like it had been born again. I stepped in. The airlock hissed, then groaned, then whispered, thump. Inside, the walls bled condensation. Water dripped upward, and the sound, that heartbeat, it was everywhere now. Beneath the floor, behind the bulkheads, inside my head, thump, thump, thump. I moved slowly. Every surface had warped. Panels bulged like lungs ready to exhale, and the lights flickered at 33 hertz, same as the signal frequency. I passed by a shattered lab console. On it, a tape recorder, running, looping the same message. "We're not dead, we're changed. Come see." I found the command deck around 20 minutes in, or maybe 40. Time didn't feel real anymore. Every clock read 33. Even my watch. Even after I took the battery out, the deck was covered in blood, or something red. It moved too much to be blood, floating in the center. A suit, not occupied, just hanging there. Upright, perfect, like someone had stepped out of it without opening the seal. I turned around, and that's when I saw the message scrawled in reverse on the viewport. "Don't let it in your lungs." Too late, because every breath now felt shared. Heavy, wet, and flavored with salt and copper. Then I heard the heartbeat again. Only this time it wasn't just in my ears. It was behind me. I turned and saw me, dripping wet, eyes bloated, skin sloughing, lips parted in a silent scream. But otherwise, me. It pointed at my chest and whispered, "You don't belong in there." Then charged. I ran. No plan, no route, just back. Back to the hatch, back to the capsule. The thumping grew louder, like the walls themselves were pulsing, and the voice followed me. "You're using someone else's heart. It wants it back. We all want it back." I reached the hatch, started the emergency ascent protocol. The countdown stuttered. 4, 33, then 4, 72, then 4. Thump. Something hit the hull. Not outside. Inside. The lights flickered. Warning klaxons screamed, and a new message buzzed over the speaker. "Transfer in progress. Please do not resist." I bit down on my tongue and screamed anyway, because if this was a transfer, I needed to stay myself. I clawed at the console, overrode the fail-safes, initiated the manual ascent, and as I rocketed upward, the pressure howled like a god in pain. I passed out at 200 meters, woke up coughing salt water. They pulled me from the capsule at dawn. My vitals, heart rate, unknown. EKG flatlined, but I was moving, breathing, talking. One of the techs whispered, "That's not possible." Another one just stared at me and whispered. He brought something back. They kept me in quarantine for 48 hours, tried to monitor my sleep. But I don't sleep anymore, because every time I close my eyes, I hear it again. Thump, thump, thump. And somewhere in that darkness, something hears it too. Some cases come as sealed envelopes. Others, they show up on their own. I was called out to Route 91, mile marker 86, desert road. No towns for 40 miles. No lights, no cell towers. A Greyhound bus was found parked diagonally across both lanes. Still running, no driver, and all the windows covered. Not with curtains, not with fog, with skin stretched, sewn, pulsing like it still remembered how to breathe. Dispatch didn't give me much, just coordinates and Rule 39. If someone asks where the driver went, lie. Even if it's the driver, they didn't clarify what the lie should be. Just made it clear. Tell the truth. And you're not walking away. I approached around dusk. The sky was bleeding out into black. Coyotes stayed quiet. The engine was still running, idling low like a giant animal resting. Steam puffed from the exhaust, but the bus was cold to the touch. Colder than it should have been. The license plate had been scratched off, replaced with a metal tag, P-091 void. There were footprints outside, dozens of them leading away from the bus, then circling back over and over. Like the passengers had tried to leave, but couldn't get far. I stepped aboard. The inside was darker than it should have been. Not black-soaked. Every overhead light flickered in slow motion, like time was bending inside. Seats were full, passengers sitting upright, eyes open, mouths sealed shut with black thread. Some of them had clawed at the seams, blood under every fingernail. One man turned to look at me. His eyes weren't afraid. They were begging. I counted 27 passengers, all accounted for, except the driver. The seat up front was empty, keys still in the ignition, and the wheel. It twitched every few seconds, like someone was trying to turn it from the other side. I stepped toward it, and the PA crackled to life. Where'd the driver go? A woman's voice asked. I spun around. The woman in seat 4C had stood up, face slack, eyes blank, but her mouth was open now. Thread hung like seaweed. Where'd the driver go? She repeated. I swallowed hard and lied. He got off, switched routes. Her face snapped upward, smile like torn paper. She sat down. Then the man in 6A stood up. Where'd the driver go? He died. Heart attack. Body already removed. Another smile. Back down. It went on like that, one by one. Each passenger stood. Same question. I had to come up with 27 lies. Different. Believable. Fast. By the 19th, I was sweating blood. By the 25th, I was forgetting my own name. The 26th passenger was a child. Couldn't have been more than 9, except when he spoke. It was in my voice. Where'd the driver go? I answered. He never existed. The boy blinked, nodded, sat. Only one left now. And that's when the bus door slammed shut. The lights turned red. The engine roared, and from the front mirror, something began to form. Not in the glass. Behind it, the reflection showed the driver's seat filled. By me. Not a copy, not a doppelganger. Me. Same cuts, same breath, only difference. He was smiling. Then he asked, where'd the driver go? And for a second, I froze. I almost said you're looking at him, but that was the truth. And Rule 39 was very clear. So instead, I lied. He never showed up. The reflection paused, grinned wider. Good boy, it whispered, and vanished. The lights returned to normal. The door hissed open. The passengers all slumped, still breathing, but silent again. I walked off that bus without looking back. HQ met me at the checkpoint. Didn't say a word. Just burned my uniform and scanned my teeth to make sure I was still me. Later that night, I passed a Greyhound stop in the city, and there it was. Same bus, parked in the lot, empty, still idling. I didn't stop because the mirror inside was facing the street, and I swear to God, I saw it smile. The man's name was Edgar Rice. At least, that's what the file said. Born 1901, died 1983, still breathing in 2025. He'd been on life support for 42 years, never aged, never improved, never died. And according to HQ, that was on purpose, because every time he opened his mouth, something spoke through him. I wasn't supposed to interact with the patient, just monitor vitals, record vocal episodes, notify base if he completed a sentence. Rule 03, don't let him finish the sentence. Cut the power, break the air feed, smash the teeth if you have to. And beneath that, scribbled in pencil, we don't know who's speaking, but we know what it wants. The hospital was fake. 4 floors of drywall and decoy nurses, all paid actors, all trained to never answer the intercom. Edgar was on the lowest floor, sub-level 3, surrounded by salt rings, mercury lines, and air that smelled too clean, like it had been filtered for more than oxygen. He looked like a corpse, but worse, alive without motion, eyes rolled back, skin stretched thin enough to see every vein and twitch of muscle. Machines kept him ticking, but the real tension came from the old tape recorder mounted beside the bed. It clicked on whenever he muttered, and only HQ could rewind it. On my second night, Edgar started twitching, low groans, lips fluttering like he was trying to form words underwater. The machines began to shake, vitals still stable, brain activity off the charts. The lights dimmed, the room grew colder, and then he said it. Orum kai latheth, Zunna, Srul. I felt the pressure in my ears. My molars cracked. Then came the pause. His tongue hung in the air. One syllable from something final. I panicked, did what the rule said, ripped out the oxygen, smashed the sound system, slammed his jaw shut with my forearm. He coughed blood, and then smiled. Not like a man, not like someone waking from a dream, but like a child who got away with something. When HQ reviewed the tape, they went pale, said the last consonant, the one I interrupted, was the same, used by a Class Zeta entity we buried in 1997. That one took out an entire town before we learned how to silence it. Said this voice might be older, hungrier, and better at waiting. They reinforced the room, strapped Edgar down tighter, repainted the salt rings, and handed me a syringe. Last resort, they said, if he ever gets close to finishing the sentence again, inject this into his brainstem. No hesitation. I asked what it was. They just said, a chemical lobotomy, night 5. He began again. Same words, same rhythm, but this time, he added something new. He said my name. Logan. I froze. I'd never told anyone my assignment. No one had spoken it aloud, not even dispatch. He kept going. Logan, you left the door open. Saw the one behind the mirror. He remembers you. I should have shut him up, should have pulled the plug, but I didn't, because I needed to hear who the hell was talking. He twitched, eyes rolled down, locking onto mine. Then his mouth opened wider than it should have, and he began. He is the power exploded. Emergency lights flickered red. Sprinklers hissed, and Edgar floated off the table. Not levitated, floated, like the room had become water. He smiled wider. His lips began again, and I moved. Syringe in hand, I jammed it into his neck and pushed. The hiss of chemicals filled the air, and then he screamed, not with pain, with rage, like I'd robbed him of the final word. His body collapsed, silent, still, grinning. The machines rebooted, and I stood there, covered in blood, heart racing, wondering if I'd won or just delayed something inevitable. HQ said I did the right thing, that whatever was about to be said could have ended everything west of the Rockies. But they also found something new on the tape, a second voice, faint, background, like a whisper in a hurricane. It just said, Next time, let him speak. I haven't slept since, because every time I close my eyes, I hear my name. Not screamed, not whispered, just spoken, like it's part of a sentence. And I know, if I ever hear the end of it, I won't be me anymore. The graveyard had no name, just a GPS blip in the middle of nowhere, tucked between two collapsed barns and a dried-up creek in Arkansas. From above, it looked like a field, but get close enough, and you'd see it. One grave, exactly one. I was dispatched because of an anomaly report. A former agent stationed nearby sent a final message. I walked where I shouldn't have. It remembered me. He was found dead 2 days later, half buried, in a grave with no name. HQ didn't have a file on this place, not officially. But they did give me Rule 21, printed on cloth instead of paper. Don't stand where your headstone should be. If you don't know where that is, you're already on it. Yeah, real reassuring. I arrived at dusk. The wind didn't move, not through the grass, not the trees. Like even nature was holding its breath. The grave was easy to find. White stone, perfectly clean, no name. No birth, no death, but there was a mirror embedded in the headstone. That's how it tells you it's for you. You don't read your name. You see your reflection. I stood a few feet back, looked at the ground. Dead center in front of the headstone. The grass grew taller, greener, like something alive waited just beneath it. I inched forward and felt the cold hit me. My name, in my own voice. Not out loud, in my head. Logan Mercer, born July 19th, 1993, died alone. I stepped back, fast, and the whisper stopped. So I tried again. This time from the left. Same chill, same voice, different death. Died screaming from the right. Died screaming from the front again. Died still. I circled the grave for 2 hours. Trying to figure out which side was mine, but every angle had a version of my end. Sometimes alone, sometimes burned, sometimes swallowed. One whispered, died face down in your own skin. I stopped sleeping after that one. Then, at 3:00 im, the stone changed. The mirror warped, reflected me but older, bloodshot, coughing something dark. He spoke without moving his mouth. You've already been buried. We're just remembering now. I backed away, tripped, and landed square in front of the headstone, right where a body would be. Everything went black, then open field. But wrong, colorless, still, and in the distance, 100 more graves, all blank, all mirrored, all showing me. Each one whispered a new death. And I realized this place didn't bury you once. It buried every version of you. Every death you never had. Every end you didn't meet. Every fate avoided. They were all here. And the stone, it waited for you to choose. To accept one ending so the others could feed. I screamed, pushed myself out of the dirt, and the sky cracked. Reality ripped like paper soaked in oil. And the headstone shattered, not with a bang, with a sigh. Like disappointment, I drove for 5 hours straight. Didn't talk, didn't blink, didn't stop until I was under fluorescent lights back at HQ. The operative who debriefed me asked what I saw. I handed him the mirror shard I'd taken. He looked down and froze, because it didn't show him. It showed me, still standing at the grave, still waiting to die. Now every reflective surface I pass, I check twice, because someday soon, I think the version of me in the grave will blink, and I won't. There's a surveillance site known only as Dreamlock. It's not on any map, buried a mile beneath Utah desert. Dreamlock monitors neurological frequency fields, dream broadcasts from people who shouldn't be dreaming anymore. Patients in irreversible comas, brain-dead cases, a few confirmed deaths, but someone or something is still dreaming through them. And lately, one of those dreams has started watching us back. HQ sent me in after the last sleep tech vanished. Security footage showed him walking into the main lab at 3. Roseksa M. lying down on the observation cot, and then never getting back up. No one entered. No one left. The dream feed just swallowed him. Before I left, they handed me a new rule card. Silver foil. Flickered when I blinked. Rule 11. If you see yourself sleeping in third person, wake up someone else. Even if you're alone. That last line stuck in my head like a nail. Dreamlock looked like any old military installation. Stale coffee, dented lockers, echoing footsteps. But below level 4, silence. Not the quiet kind, the waiting kind. The air felt compressed, like the dreams were breathing in. The control room had 12 monitors. Each showed a live feed of a subject in stasis. Eyes closed, no movement, except one. Monitor 7. Every 5 minutes, the image would distort and flash a new image for half a second. My bedroom, the one from when I was 8. Same posters, same cracked lamp, same closet door I never opened at night. I asked the system to print the last 10 Zora frames. It refused, said, unauthorized access. Subject is already awake. But the person in the bed was motionless, breathing shallow. Then the feed flickered again and showed me lying there, sleeping. From above, third person. I backed away, checked the other monitors. Same thing, all showing different people except now. They were all me. Different ages, different rooms, all asleep, all viewed from above. And then, the camera panned by itself. That's when I heard it. Logan, low, in the walls. Not a whisper, a memory. I turned and saw it. Monitor 12, now flashing. Wake up, in red letters. Over and over. I blinked and suddenly I was on the floor. No memory of falling. No time passed. But the cot behind me had an imprint. I checked the feed again. The version of me sleeping was now moving. Eyes fluttering. Hands twitching. Dreaming. And behind him me stood a shape. Tall. Colorless. No face. It raised a finger to its lips. Shh. Then the monitor cut out. I hit the emergency override. Nothing. Tried to leave. Door locked. Tried radio. Dead channel. And then, the air in the room thickened. Time bent, and I was back on the floor. This time, I was the one sleeping, except I was watching it. From the corner of the ceiling, third person, exactly what the rule warned about. I tried to scream, move, blink, nothing. And that's when the voice came again. If you see yourself sleeping in third person, wake up someone else. But I was alone, or so I thought, until I saw the mirror above the console, and in its reflection, a figure standing behind me. A nurse's uniform, old, burnt, no eyes, just teeth. She leaned in close and whispered, "Choose who to wake," then slid a clipboard toward me. On it, names, hundreds, people I didn't know, except for one, my mother. I had to pick someone, anyone. So I slammed my hand down next to her name. The clipboard caught fire, and I woke up on the floor again. But this time I remembered. All of it, every layer. And on the screen, Monitor 7 showed a new dreamer. A faceless version of me. Still asleep, still twitching, still dreaming. HQ took me in for scans. Said I'd been unconscious for 6 minutes. Told them I was awake the whole time. They checked Monitor 7. Nothing there. Just static. But that night, my mom called. Said she'd had the strangest dream. You were screaming, Logan, but not with words, with someone else's mouth. Now I don't sleep more than an hour at a time, because sometimes, when I start to drift, I see myself from above. And the shape next to me keeps getting closer. Some places shouldn't exist. They don't show up on satellite. They don't age. They don't decay. They're just there, waiting. The cave in West Virginia was one of them. Locals called it the Choir, not because people sang there, but because it sang by itself. And once a year, always at sunset on the summer solstice, it adds a new name to the song. My orders were simple. Observe from a distance. Record audio. Do not enter. No exceptions. But then HQ handed me Rule 42. If the cave sings your name, you're already inside its mouth. I asked what that meant. They didn't look me in the eyes, just handed me a fresh set of earplugs and said, "Do not respond. Do not hum back." The cave sat in the center of a dead field. No trees, no birds. Even the wind changed direction around it. It looked small, barely a crack in a cliffside, but you could feel the pressure from 50 feet away, like standing next to a lung the size of a city. I set up the parabolic mic and started recording. At first, nothing. Then the hum began, low, subsonic, like a choir warming up with no mouths. The cave inhaled through the earth, and on the second hour, it started to speak. Real. La. Not words, names. Some sounded ancient. Others were disturbingly modern. And then, just past 9:00 p.m., I heard it. Logan. No mistake. My name. Clear. Drawn out. Like it wanted to taste it. I took a step back. Checked the recording. It was clean. No distortion. Except for one thing. My voice whispered. Here during playback. Even though I never spoke. I tried to leave. My car wouldn't start. Compass spun. Every direction pointed toward the cave. The wind shifted, pushing from behind, guiding. I ran the other way. Didn't matter. Still ended up back at the mouth. I radioed HQ, static. Then a voice I didn't recognize whispered, "Already inside." And the ground opened, not metaphorically. Literally, the grass peeled like skin. The soil yawned open, and the cave mouth grew 3 times wider, lined with teeth, not stone formations, actual molars, incisors, canines, human, animal, unknown, all embedded in the walls, all humming. I blacked out, woke up standing inside the cave. No memory of walking in, just there, in the dark, surrounded by singing bones and walls that pulsed like gums. Each vibration said a name. Each name came with a memory that wasn't mine. I saw a child fall into a lake and drown. I felt a man's skull split under a tire iron. I tasted ashes from a burned village. Then I saw myself, crouched, weeping, carving a name into the wall. Logan Mercer. The letters writhed after each stroke, like they didn't want to be contained. Then the cave responded. A dozen walls echoed the name back in unison. Logan, Logan, Logan. And from the deepest part of the cave, a mouth opened. Not a metaphor, not a hallucination. A mouth the size of a bus, built of hundreds of skulls fused together. It sang in perfect harmony. Welcome home. I shoved my fingers in my ears and ran. Didn't look back, didn't blink, just ran toward the light, and the singing followed. Until I burst into the open, fell to the dirt, screamed into the grass, and everything went still. The cave shrunk back down, silent, innocent, like it never opened. And the recording, clean, except for one file. A whisper looped 33 times, over and over. Inside, inside, inside. HQ let me go after debrief, but they changed my clearance, revoked field access, said I went too deep, but I think the truth is worse, 'cause I haven't heard silence since. Everything hums now. The fridge, the walls, the air, and sometimes they sing my name again. Not out loud. Inside, HQ went dark last night. No alerts, no evacuation orders, no breach alarms, just a silent, blank ping on my secure device. Coordinates, the operations core, my old post, message, return, alone. No one signed it, but I knew I had to go, because the last thing I saw before the screen went black was my own name, written where the rules usually go, and below it, Rule 0 has been activated. The building was silent, too clean, no power, but the lights still flickered, desks untouched, coffee warm, papers mid-fall, like everyone had vanished mid-sentence, and the air dead, like the space between heartbeats. I made it to my old floor, section R9. The hallway stretched longer than I remembered. The doors didn't match anymore. Some were wider, some taller, some breathing. My boots stuck to the floor with each step, as if the walls were digesting. And at the end of the hall, my desk, exactly where I left it. Only now, there was a single envelope on it. Pitch black, no seal, just a smudged note. Do not read the last rule. I should have left it there. I know that, but something pulled me in. The same way the mirror did. The cave, the dream feed, the grave. It wasn't curiosity. It was inevitability. I opened the envelope. Inside, one index card. Nothing on it at first. Then letters began to form like ink bleeding from the air. And the rule read, "If you are reading this, you've already replaced someone." I dropped the card, turned to leave, but the hallway behind me was gone. Just an open field, dead grass, and someone standing out in it. Distant, familiar. I stepped toward them, and they stepped too, mirroring me. Same height, same walk, same hesitation. I called out, "Hey!" They called out too, "Hey!" But they said it first. I ran, back to the desk, back to the envelope, but it was already in my hand again. No matter how many times I dropped it, no matter where I threw it, it came back, always open, always pulsing. And behind me, the figure grew closer, not running, just walking, but closing the distance too fast. I ducked into the file room, slammed the door, turned on every light I could, because in here, reality still followed the rules. At least, most of them. I searched the archives, looking for anything, any record of a Rule 0, and I found it, in a red file marked Consumed. The entry was short, typed in courier font, Rule 0, implemented when a rogue entity achieves recursive access to the rule set via compliant vessel designation. Agent, outcome, system corruption, structural reality degradation, identity bleed, instructions, do not read the final rule, and underneath, handwritten, too late, the door creaked behind me. I turned. The figure stood just inside the room now, closer than ever, wearing my face, but not copying it, wearing it like a mask stretched over something that didn't understand what a person should look like. It raised its hand. I felt my body mimic it, like a puppet on shared strings. We read the rule, it said. Now we are the rule. Everything fractured. The room blinked out. I blinked in, back at the desk, the envelope unopened, the hallway behind me intact, like none of it ever happened. But when I looked down, I wasn't holding the card anymore. I was writing it, hand moving on its own, pen gliding, spelling out letters I didn't recognize, until they became English, until they became a name. Yours. Because now the rule's looking for you, because I escaped. By replacing someone. Now it's your turn. If you've read this far, if the last sentence made you feel watched, then you already did it. You read the final rule. And Rule 0 always makes room for one more.